Hi, I'm Dr. Michael Fagellalubi with this OmniED Brief. In this short video, we'll be talking about using data to make decisions. In particular, we're going to be highlighting an idea from our friends at the National Center on Intensive Intervention called Data-based Individualization. I want to take you through the ideas they've got and walk through why it might be helpful for you when you're trying to tailor instruction to an individual student who has high needs. Let's take a look together. So data-based individualization has both a physical diagram here on the left-hand side. You'll see from the American Institutes of Research, who house the National Center on Intensive Intervention, and a 5-step formula for how you can go about moving to data-based individualization. I'm going to talk through all 5 steps here briefly, and I hope you'll follow along with the diagram on the left-hand side to see how they connect to meet the needs of individual students. Let's start with step 1. Validated intervention program. What we're really talking about here is making sure that a validated intervention program is in place as what we call a secondary intervention. When students in our typical achieving class, when our Tier 1 students are not responding to the instruction we've designed, they need something more intensive. We need to increase the dosage, the amount of instruction they're getting. It could be the time, changing the materials. We want to think about here in step 1 is making sure, though, that there's research to support that program. If there's no research or no validation behind the intervention program, it's probably not a good place to start. But once a student has experienced the validated intervention program, we go to step 2. We need to progress monitor because we're asking ourselves the question, is this actually working? So we evaluate student response to the intensified intervention by collecting regular progress monitoring data. There's a variety of ways you can do that. Curriculum-based measures is one that comes to mind. We just want to make sure that the progress monitoring assessment is aligned to the validated intervention program. Now, if a student is responsive to the validated intervention program, they're good. They either don't need that supplemental instruction anymore, or they continue as their growth pattern catches them up with their typical achieving peers. But what happens if they don't respond? Well, now we're on the left-hand side where that sort of minus sign is. We go into step 3. Step 3 is diagnostic assessment. We really need to look under the hood and find out exactly what's going on here. It's not enough to say the student struggles with writing, the student struggles with math, the student struggles with reading. Instead, we need to collect and review data to identify the specific areas of difficulty and to make informed decisions about how to adapt the intervention. We thought we had a good intervention in step 1, but it didn't meet the students' needs. Either their level of performance or the rate of growth they had wasn't going to be sufficient to catch them up with their typical achieving peers. So now my diagnostic assessment really looks under the hood at the working parts of learning to figure out what we need to do to adapt or change that intervention, or in some cases find a new intervention. We begin moving down our graph here from the green diagnostic data box down to the intervention adaptation. And that word adaptation is really important. We want to, in step 4, adapt or change the intervention based on the student's needs, based on that assessment we conducted in step 3. Now that only makes sense, right? We want to make sure the intervention is changed or adapted, whether through small group or individualized instruction, to make sure that they're being responsive, that we're actually changing their level or rate of performance. Now, if I'm going to change the instruction, it makes sense that step 5, I continue to progress monitor. Now, it may be that I continue to collect progress monitoring data to evaluate the student's response to the individualized instructional adaptations with the same measure, or it could be that now I need something a little different, a little more focused. But regardless, every time, step 1 and step 4, that I introduce some sort of intervention, I need step 2 and step 5, a chance to see, is the student adequately responding to that instruction to change their rate and level of growth? If they're not, I continue steps 3, 4, and 5 as I individualize the intervention for the students. This is really a summary of the data-based individualization process. And again, the folks at American Institutes for Research at the National Center for Intensive Intervention offer us these 5 steps as a way of meeting the needs of our students, regardless of whether it's an academic or really even a behavioral challenge. This has been an OmniED Brief looking at data-based individualization. If you found this video helpful, we hope you'll visit us at omnied.org for more.